Welcome back to our AOCPMR podcast. My name is Loc Lam, and I'm a fourth-year student doctor and a co-chair for the AOCPMR Public Relations. I will be the host for the podcast today. And with me here is Dr. Jonathan Reisman. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Reisman. Thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure. It was really wonderful when we first spoke. We spoke about the podcast, and I was excited and happy for the opportunity.
Thank you so much again. Before we go ahead with some questions, I just want to introduce a little bit about you to the audience. Is that okay, Dr. Reisman?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So Dr. Jonathan Reisman is a third-year resident at University of Minnesota Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Department. He treats patients with brain injury, spinal cord, sport injuries, as well as chronic pain. He is on the educator track at his residency program. He is the founder of FoamPMR, which stands for Free Open Access Medical Education in Physical Medicine and Rehabilitations. And you can access his website at FoamPMR.com. He also has a YouTube channel called Talking Health with Dr. John, Medicine, Rehab, Fitness. He's used to be in a band, can play multiple instruments. He's also a husband and a father of 2 daughters. He loves Disney World and the band Red Hot Chili Peppers. So do these descriptions like fairly describing you, Dr. Reisman?
That's pretty accurate. I have 1 daughter and 1 child on the way. That's the only, you might have said two daughters.
Oh,
there.
I might have said two daughters.
Right, but that's okay. No problem. If it's a girl, then you'll be a prophet.
Okay, okay.
But otherwise everything 100% accurate.
That's awesome. All right, thank you again for being here with us today. So
sure.
I'm just going ahead with some questions to continue with the podcast. So in my research for this podcast, I came across an interesting response that you gave in the University of Minnesota Resident Spotlight back in February of this year. The question was that what drew you in PM&R? And your response, and I quote, what didn't draw me to PM&R is a better questions. And I found this response to be very clever because you basically said that PM&R has nothing that you did not like. So how did you come to love this field so much? And could you describe your journey in discovering and matching into this specialty?
Yes, absolutely. Growing up, I was interested in sports. I was interested in high school. I knew I wanted to be a physician. I sort of just thought I would want to be an orthopedist because that was kind of what I knew from medicine and seemingly would be most closely related to my interests. And then over the course of time, in college, I got interested a little bit more in the mind, psychology. I did go to Hebrew school growing up throughout my whole education. So I studied quite a bit of biblical texts, and I got interested in the mind, the spirit. Was obviously a nice fit for an osteopathic school, that being the case. And the thing was, before I started medical school, I had an opportunity to do this shadow program where I was with orthopedic surgery residents for 2 weeks. And I learned that while I thought that surgery was fascinating, I don't really think myself that I would want to be a surgeon. And so as someone actually once mentioned to me, I think you would like to be a physiatrist. And to be honest, I didn't know what that was. And kind of just went about my business. And then actually at my white coat ceremony, I had gotten married about a week prior. And at the day of my white coat ceremony, there was a club fair. And my wife came over to me and she said, I think I saw something that you want to do. And I went over there and it was this, they were presenting on the PM&R club. And it was exactly like if you were to just describe my interests, what I like to do, how I like to spend my time, it was really a perfect fit. So really from my white coat ceremony on throughout all of medical school, I knew that I wanted to do PM&R. The only other consideration at all was psychiatry. And that's sort of that mind component. But I do find that there's quite a bit of that in PM&R as well.
Wow, that's quite an interesting journey you have. And I'm glad that you found I would say the best field out there, especially if you're interested in the wholesome aspect of treating patients. That's an very, very interesting story you had there. And so right now, I know that you're at the University of Minnesota, BA Physical Medicine Rehab. So what do you like most about your current residency program?
So yeah, there's a lot that I love about it. I'm actually from the East Coast. I grew up in New Jersey, 20 minutes out of New York. So to move, halfway across the country with my wife, and we have at the time our daughter was about a year and a half. I really had to love the program. And when I came on the interview to the University of Minnesota, when I was going through the interview trail, I know this year will be a little different with the computer trail. But at the time, I got here and I called my wife afterwards and I said, I really, really liked it. It was really, we had a lot of decisions ahead of ourselves. But what I love about the program, there's similar to PMR, there are really so many things. One, off the bat, there's a very large family feel to the program. Our program director, Dr. Tonkin, he makes it very clear that if something is not right in your life, whether it's your personal life, your family life, like you have to take care of that first before you do anything else. They make it very easy for us to have a good life, a good work-life balance. But the thing that's really wonderful at the same time is I think that sometimes programs that are heavily family-oriented, you can get the impression that there might be on the academic side a little less intense. And vice versa. A very intense academic program might be a little bit less family-oriented, family-friendly, but this program really provides both. So I liked that off the bat. The program has many fellowships. I believe there are 8 different fellowship positions available with 4 or 5 graduating residents per year. Nothing is guaranteed, obviously, but you have an opportunity, whatever your interest is. We have almost all the different fellowships. And our residents are great. Minnesota is great. It's a wonderful place to live. But really our leadership, Dr. Tonkin, he has an open door policy. I know that there are many different PM&R departments where there are quite a few barriers to entry into the program director's office, a secretary, a different hallway to go down. And you just, any time of day, you walk right in, say what's on your mind. And for myself personally, that's been a really wonderful opportunity for us to kind of start a lot of projects, a lot of research, a lot of different things, because you have everything at your fingertips. And the program really encourages you to develop yourself individually as well as help contribute to the program development.
Wow, Ceylon, you found a very, very great program. And I also attended the couple session from the University of Minnesota as well. And I can tell that it's a very impressive program. And the director, Dr. Tonkin, is very nice program director as well. And he's very involved with, especially the residency fair as well. And that I'm very glad that you choose the right program for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I just have one more question regarding your program.
Sure.
So how did the program adapt to the COVID-19 situations?
So our program adapted in many different stages, and in many ways we're still adapting. It's constantly an evolving scenario. And another thing about our program that's really great is we have so many different training sites. All of the different major hospital systems here we're affiliated with. And as a result, it's hard enough to understand COVID policies in one institution, but we have to keep track of all of the different ones because depending on which site you're rotating at, there could be a very different reality. So off the bat, our program leadership made it very clear that our safety is a priority. We were told that in the event that we are pulled to go work in ICUs or anything like that, if there's ever a situation where we feel that we are not safe, that's it. Like it stops right there. So we had a lot of support. And this was a time that's very anxiety producing for the entire country and certainly healthcare providers. So it felt good to just know that, whatever would happen, our program will have our back. We're not going to get in trouble if we feel uncomfortable in a situation. That being the case, we did have many opportunities to brush up on our education of various acute management. Should that end up happening, the entire state of Minnesota did a really good job of shutting down early before it became an emergency situation. So our outpatient and elective rotations immediately were suspended, and our program actually came up, rather than just reacting to the situation. We came up with ways to make our program even better during the situation. So we started to work very hard on a virtual rotation for medical students. And so residents who were on those elective rotations that were shut down were contributing towards that. We devised a whole new system of a consult rotation and rotating through various things. And I think key to all of that is communication, because there's so many different moving parts. And no matter what, this is not a good situation, with the pandemic. But if you have good communication back and forth, then you make things as good as possible. And so every time we have meetings, we're discussing at each individual site how things are going. Our administrators and program coordinators and educators, they started sending out daily, or I think every other day, surveys to monitor our stress levels, to keep track of if everything's okay with us, so that they can make sure things are going well. So I think they really took care of us and made us feel safe, and at the same time provided high-level education. Any of our didactics that we were going to be having, different rotations have different didactics. So besides for our weekly program didactics, so those were held over Zoom. So for instance, I was on my EMG rotation. While my EMG rotation stopped in the middle of the rotation, 2 days of the week at 7 o'clock in the morning, we have EMG didactics. So we continued those individually over Zoom between the attending and myself and the other EMG residents. So we prioritized education, prioritized safety, and in short, used it as an opportunity just to grow from it and create a better product for ourselves.
Oh, I see. Wow, the program really very proactive in tackling this COVID problem and help out with the resident as well. That's very helpful for them and very supportive from the programs. Yeah, I'm very impressed with that, especially on the detail that you gave us as well, and how exactly they do it. Yeah, and so PM&R is a diverse field with diverse of specialty. Mm-hmm. Based on my research on you, based on the description that what you put on your YouTube video, I might assume that you are mostly interested in brain, spinal cord, sport injuries, and chronic pain. What makes you focus more on this topic in PM&R? And do you have even a more broader topic that you want to focus on as well?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as that goes, I am interested in all those topics. Similar, to the mind, body, spirit, scheme of understanding things. There are a lot of, for instance, orthopedics. I find ACL repair fascinating, the different graft options, the different way to do the surgery. That's intellectual for me. I like to talk about it. I like to read about it, but I would not want to be doing the surgery. So my mind is there in terms of passion, but in terms of how I want to use my hands, it's not as a surgeon. I like interventional pain, and I can see myself, it's fun for me. It's really a lot of, it's a puzzle. You have to rotate the anatomy in 3D dimensions. I very much think it's a direct extension of osteopathic manipulative medicine, what you're doing in the interventional suite. I like that. So that's kind of how I want to spend my time physically. At the same time, I appreciate the emotional, spiritual aspects of pain besides for just physical. So in chronic pain, there's a lot of counseling and there's a lot of understanding certain events that maybe cause the pain that the patient is not even aware of. But as far as spinal cord, brain injury, stroke, to name a few, those are areas that interest me. I like to talk about them. I like to speak to them. I like to counsel patients about them. They are less hands-on from a physical sense. Really, if it was up to me, I would not even have to choose one area to go into, because I will participate in lots of these different areas. And one thing that's been very exciting for me about FoamPMR is that I see myself having an opportunity to stay involved in all of the different academic areas of PM&R, while I might, as of now, I'm pursuing a fellowship for pain, but I don't want to close the door on my TBI knowledge or my spinal cord injury knowledge. And those patients are going to have pain, and I'm going to treat them with my pain hat on. But in a sense, it's really just, that same analogy. You have different parts of your personality and different things that you like to do. So I try in my life to not leave anything out on the table. I try to, incorporate all of them.
I see. That's a really good mindset to have there, especially like for anyone, I would say like want to go into the PM&R field. So we just end with asking you about your interests, like specifically in the specialty.
Sure.
So now I just want to just a quick, fun PM&R questions before we can explore another topic. So what is the one common myth about PM&R that you want to debunk on this podcast?
Well, I would say the first one is that it's not physical medicine. It's not physical therapy. That's probably anytime you speak to somebody about doing PM&R, if they're not educated about it, they'll assume you're a physical therapist. But I guess more so than that, I guess specifically amongst people who know a bit more about PM&R, myth that I would say is that it stands for plenty of money and relaxation. I don't know if you ever heard that, but people say as a joke, oh, PM&R stands for plenty of money and relaxation. I can't comment about the money side. I'm a resident. I don't focus as much on that, but it's not, plenty of relaxation. If you want to take it very seriously and you want to, make a wonderful career out of yourself, there are times that I don't go to sleep till 2:00 in the morning because I'm working on so many different things. PM&R is wonderful in that you might not, in our program, we don't have to take call at overnight in the hospital. We can do it from home. So technically I could be home by 5:00 in the evening. And if I was just going to get home and watch TV for 5 hours, then it would be plenty of relaxation. But, today is Sunday that we're talking, we're doing this. Tomorrow I'll be doing something else. So I think it's an opportunity to have plenty of relaxation, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to accomplish so many really great things. It's a really large playing field. The field is booming, and there's really a lot that you can do and keep yourself quite busy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with you that people say it's a plenty of relaxation, but what you can do with that hours you have is more important than using that just for relaxation. Mm-hmm. And I very admire you that you own that hour to like a lot of things that like your YouTube channel, your FoamPMR, and like make it very helpful to other people as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And another unique characteristic that I found in the resident spotlight about that you gave is that you chose to pursue the educator track within your program, simply because you are very passionate about teaching and educating people around you. Would you tell us more about the passion of teachings and how does it play a role in your YouTube channel and your brand new project, FoamPMR?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. It's a topic I'm passionate about. I think that I went to school. I mentioned earlier, I went to a Hebrew school where in the morning until, we would have from 8:00 until lunch, which was around 12:45. We would have Hebrew, Judaic, biblical kind of subjects. And then in the afternoon after lunch, we would have until 5:30 in the evening, the state curriculum, math, science, English, history, so on and so forth. And then after 5:30, we would have our sports or whatever activities you wanted to be involved with. And that was really that way from the time I was little until I was 18. It was a school that went all the way until 12th grade. And while it was not always so much fun as a student to be in school for that many hours, they were constantly talking to us about the importance of education and how you don't want to just be educated, but you want to be excellent in everything that you do. I think that it's obvious that not everyone was created with the same exact situation. Some people are put into an opportunity where they can have tutors. Some people are put into an opportunity where they have family members who are physicians. And some people are given really, really high IQ levels, and some people, their IQ is maybe not as high. But one thing that we can all do is work hard. And one thing that we can do is try to reach as much of our potential as we can. And I think one of the best ways to do that is through education. We're aware that you learn more by teaching than by listening. So anytime, if I said, hey, you want to give a talk on spinal cord injury? So by you accepting that you're going to go give a talk on spinal cord injury, you're going to have no choice but to become a spinal cord injury expert unless you want to embarrass yourself in front of people. So, for that matter, our program, we have board review and we have to sign up for different topics. So I chose to sign up for prosthetics and amputation because I don't really know that much about it, and I need to know it for my board exam. So it's a good, way. I have to study it so that I could teach it, so that I'll be able to do it. But that's just sort of the beginning of it. The other thing is that the reality is most of the country and probably the world, but I can speak the United States only, is really not aware of PM&R. And doctors who are aware of PM&R, they really don't understand what it is that we do. And patients certainly are not aware of it, and community members are not aware of it. And it became obvious to me while I was on certain rotations that we had family members. One of the saddest things was a family member who did not understand brain injury, and their child had had a brain injury. And the injury did not just occur the day before, it had happened weeks before, and there was so little that they understood. So it became obvious to me that there is a problem in education, and I think it's occurring at all levels. It's occurring in school. I learned about PM&R on my first day of medical school. Maybe I could have learned about PM&R as a undergrad, or maybe in high school I should have known about PM&R. I knew about orthopedics, I knew about cardiology, but I didn't know about PM&R. So I say a lot of times when somebody has no idea what PM&R is, I say, then you're very lucky, because in reality, the people 9 out of 10 times that do know what PM&R is because they have someone in their family that had a really bad accident or acquired or congenital disorder. So I think that we can change that. I think that we can do a lot of good. There's so many different creative ways we can apply PM&R to address a lot of the issues in healthcare as well as other areas in the United States, but it all starts with education. So that's sort of where my passion is.
Okay, I see. And that passion definitely gonna play a big role in your project, the FoamPMR as well. So since we're on that topic of like educations and how that impact you to launch the website FoamPMR, I just want to talk a little bit more about your website. So I know that you have a whole YouTube video explaining all about what exactly is FoamPMR. But just in the short descriptions, how would you explain to our audience here what is FoamPMR?
Sure. I've learned, like you mentioned, the attention span of people are changing. I notice myself as I'm going through my phone, if there's a video that I want to watch, even if I'm enjoying it, I already flip through it, even if I liked it. I don't even know why. It's subconscious. We just are constantly processing through new things. I think that we can use that to our advantage in education instead of just trying to combat it. There are a lot of great ways that we're learning through podcasts such as this, videos, journal articles that are now available online, as well as written question banks. We learn through UWorld and ComBank and ComQuest in some ways better than we learn from any book we'll ever read. So what Foam Education stands for, Free Open Access Medical Education, is being used heavily in the emergency medicine world, a bit in critical care world, but it's not really being used too significantly elsewhere. And essentially what it does is it seeks to address and organize all of the different ways that we can be educated nowadays through the various multimedia. And if we have a unified approach, then we can increase our conversation and our shared dialogue. So in a 15-second explanation, if every PM&R doctor decided these are the podcasts to listen to, these are the journal articles, these are the websites, these are the Twitter accounts, we all decide to follow them, we all have a Twitter account, and when I'm seeing a patient, if I have a clinical question, I can step out into my office, send out a tweet asking about this issue, and within 10 seconds, I'll have answers that will give evidence-based resources quicker than up-to-date will. So that's sort of the understanding. I think that it's a little bit early in PM&R. FoamPMR is the first attempt at it at all, and there's a lot more that we can do, and there's so many more derivations for it. But I think that in general, if I were to ask you, close your eyes and imagine what will medical education look like in 50 years from now, or what will journals look like? I don't know if there will be any mail in 50 years from now, if something paper will be even delivered. Maybe we'll have computer chips in our brain and it'll be downloaded. I'm not sure, but I think that the foam education movement is the way things are moving. So it's my attempt to get PM&R there and hopefully have PM&R lead lead the FoamEd movement, tried to do a number of things with the website that are innovative. So hopefully it'll be the other fields copying PM&R.
Oh, okay, I see. Wow, that's a very innovative thought that you have there for the goal as well, what you want to accomplish with FoamPMR. And you must be also putting a lot of hard work in this project. And I bet that you face certain challenge with this project as well. Could you elaborate in some difficulty that you face while working on FoamPMR, and how are you addressing it so far?
Sure. If I had to summarize all of it, it's education. I did not receive education in how to build a website. I was never educated in shooting videos, what camera to buy, how to get audio quality to be good, marketing. Social media is constantly changing. So there are legal things, business law, there's so much that you need to know if you want to do things properly. And if you want to be successful and you don't want to get into trouble, you have to do things properly. So the biggest barrier, I would say, is just that I was very inexperienced in all of these areas, but slow and steady, progress. The internet is a place where we have a lot of information at our fingertips. So I tried to educate myself, and then if there was a legal question, ask an attorney, marketing question, ask somebody who's in marketing. One thing that's really nice as a medical resident, and I'm in my third year of residency, if my friend's a lawyer, they've been practicing law for 6 years. If I have a friend that's an accountant, they've been doing accounting for 9 years. So medically, we take such a long time, but if we utilize our peers that have gone into other fields, you have really good resources at your fingertips.
Okay, I see. All right, I see. I see. There are a lot of things that can stand your way, but like you said earlier about the time, the relaxation time that people mistake for that, you can use that to learn other things, help, especially the thing that they can help with the project as well. And in your case, you use it to improve the FoamPMR project that you had. Totally agree with that. And so you already talked a little bit about the vision for FoamPMR, and so I just wonder, just a little bit, a small question is there any a possibility that you can make a FoamPMR into an app, for the App Store?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that was a learning experience for me was, as I was designing the website and trying to make a website that would be intuitive based off of what the idea that it's supposed to accomplish. And so a lot of effort went into the design. I realized that people in my vision for how it's going to be used, people are going to be accessing it from their phone. And you're not going to be, a lot of times if you're using social media to arrive at it, if you're using Twitter with it, you're probably using it from your phone. If it's during the day in a clinical way, it's going to be from your phone. If it's listening to a podcast in the car or at the gym, it's from your phone. So that being the case, the experience of transitioning it over to the mobile version, I really had to put a lot of effort into that. And the next website that I designed, I already decided that I'm going to start with mobile, and then the desktop version will be an afterthought. But to your question, I absolutely think that as an app, it would be even more appropriate. And it's really just as soon as I feel that it's needed, is when I'll put effort into it. There's so many different ways that I think, and kind of like that thing I mentioned with 30 to 50-year vision or 20-year vision, or things move so fast. So even 5 years. It's kind of like just putting out fires, like which thing can I put my time in that is most urgent. So I definitely agree with that. And I hope that soon, I'll need to make it. But, I think that you have to wait for the demand, I think. So while it would be useful, I think it would obviously be a very big usage of time. So unless somebody out there listening knows how to make a good app, then reach out and we can make it happen quicker.
Totally agree. But to me, the FoamPMR is very helpful for all the information that you need out there. Totally agree with that.
Oh, thank you.
So let's just switch gear and talk a little bit about your YouTube channel. I know it's a relatively new channel, but I already like the content that you put out there. The video you put up short, concise, and to the point. So You also invite your audience to contact you with any question as well, and I really like that. Same as with your FoamPMR project, would you give another short description about your YouTube channels and the goal you want to accomplish with it?
Sure. So kind of how I mentioned that there have been family members that I noticed that were not knowledgeable about their own medical situation. If you have somebody that, kind of like I said, if somebody has a PMNR related injury or disease pathology, somebody has a stroke, a brain injury, or spinal cord injury, think about all of the different people that affects. Besides for the individual that had the injury, there's the family members, friends, community members. Then there's people that the person didn't even meet yet. Someone down the road, a bus driver, someone online in a bank. And it became so obvious to me that healthcare providers do not understand what PM&R doctors provide medically. And so obviously your everyday person who's not in healthcare is not going to understand it. So my goal originally with the YouTube channel was just to provide the same way that I would explain a condition to a patient or to a patient's family member, to try to allow the general public to become knowledgeable about that same piece of information, or if a patient's family member needed to educate their friends and family, that it would be a quick and easy place where they could say, oh, here's a video that will explain exactly kind of what's going on. To my surprise, I guess, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but I guess I'm happy to see that it's sort of presenting itself as something important. And I'm getting messages from a lot of different people, asking different questions, providing feedback. So I think that it has an opportunity, because PM&R is newer than a lot of the other fields. And even though I feel like it's very old, the PM&R revival and energy, it seems to be a little new. We have in our medical school here plenty of first and second year medical students that are involved with our program and doing a lot of different things. So I think that I only created it a couple months ago, but I could see the possibility that in a year from now, it might have expanded pretty significantly.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like with the content you put out there, that's definitely going to help a lot of people, the patient, the student, and as well other people look into the specialty PM&R as well. Definitely, thank you for making the video on the video there on your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. Also, before this podcast, we had quite interesting conversations on the phone regarding this year COVID-19 challenge that facing many medical students, like a fourth-year medical student like myself, in applying for residency. One of the issues that they are facing is getting the experience in PM&R and the experience working with different programs across the country. How would you approach this problem if you are in the shoes of a fourth-year medical student right now?
So if I was a fourth-year medical student, I would actually, the same way I kind of do some other things, I'll try to make this situation to my benefit. I think we have to approach everything that way in life. It's what we tell our patients after they have their injuries. It's, try to don't make lemonade, so to speak, out of the lemon. So what I would say is right now in PM&R specifically, opportunities are booming left and right. There's new initiatives opening, new Twitter accounts left and right. One I will say is get on Twitter so you can see kind of what's going on in PM&R there, because it's an entire world that if you're not participating in it, you will not know that it exists. But to that end, leave your mark on something and take something and make it your own. Matching into residency, I have not sat on an admissions panel for residency, so I can only give my estimated perception. But with the way the field is going and there's so much innovation, I would imagine that many, there's lots of different types of residents that you want to have in your program, and not everyone has to be the same. So be true to who you are, own your strengths, own your weaknesses, and figure out what you contribute to a team. PM&R is a big team game. And so if that means that you are going to go out and start an organization that's going to help people on the other end of the world, then start doing things like that can back up your vision. if not everyone does that, some people, they just want to be a good team player, and there's nothing wrong with that, and support what their school is doing and what their club is doing. That's totally fine too. Do that, and then just say that that's what you're doing, and explain your vision of how you will be as a resident. So I think that there's so many different types of people. We don't have to be something that we're not. Understand who you are, and then get involved now. Don't let the fact that you're in your living room, learning from a laptop for 2 months change the impact you can make. I know myself, at least during the coronavirus period thus far, I have probably interacted with more people in the last 3 months than maybe I did in my entire life leading up to it, from different things that I'm doing online. So I guess to that end, don't let any closed doors be in front of you. Think creatively, but just be true to yourself in the process.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. The COVID situation has been like a mess for a lot of people, but definitely like don't let be in the room a difficulty that make you not able to access to other thing. And definitely get on Twitter as well. Definitely agree with that. So on the topic of Twitter, thanks to PM&R Scholar, we got the whole residency fair thing. And when I attend the residency fair or the private Zoom meeting from different PM&R programs, it is only wise for students to ask questions in order to learn more about the program itself, especially for the purpose of finding a good fit program. What are your top 3 questions that you would highly recommend students ask a program for this purpose?
So when I was a student, I should say, on the interview trail, every interview every interview kind of has the same trajectory. There are some unique differences and some outliers, but generally at the end of an interview, the person interviewing you is going to say, "Do you have any questions for me?" Mm-hmm. And if you could freeze time right there, that is such a loaded situation, and there's so much to analyze. And the entire interview is designed for you to shine. So I don't mean it in a bad way. The person interviewing you, when you walk into the person's room, they're hoping that God's gift to PM&R is about to walk in front of them. So use it as an opportunity to shine. But that being the case, when it's time for you to ask a question, and I think that there are sometimes people just ask questions just so they can be asking a question. The number one thing that I liked to ask in that situation was, every program is going to, show their great resources, and they're all, the gyms are really good and the faculty is good and all these different things. But one thing that can be night and day in different programs is the program's culture. And culture can be totally different everywhere. And now more than ever, it's super important. It was always important, but it's even more important now. So I would ask the person interviewing me is, how would you define your program's culture? And then, what makes your program unique in that way, different than other programs? And you have to be careful the way you word that, because obviously you don't want it to sound disrespectful. But hearing that allows you to hear what the vision of the program is. So that's one. And then the other questions that kind of go hand in hand with that, now during coronavirus, it's kind of like you asked me, what are some of the challenges that your program faced? I would say, what are some things that are going on in the program right now that are not working out so well, or that you still, that are problems? And it's okay for there to be problems. There have to be problems. This is an unprecedented pandemic. But I would want to hear kind of what the honesty is, and how the problems are explained, and then what's the plan for moving through them. So I guess that would kind of be the second question, is how do you want to move through this, specifically focusing on, again, the cultural aspect to it. We don't know all the problems that are going to happen to us. We don't know in 2 months from now we're going to have some situation in PM&R training as a downstream effect of coronavirus. But when you see how your program dealt with it, how you do in tough situations is a much better learning example about a program than all of the wonderful accomplishments and scholarship they have on a perfect day. And who's to say that the pandemic is not going to end and then something worse will come? So you're making a decision to invest in not only in your future, but for a few years of your life that are very important. So what is the program's strategy for dealing with issues? How have they changed? What worked? What didn't work? There's a lot of things that didn't work. And how do they acknowledge that? Our program is not afraid to say, we're sorry, we did this, that didn't end up being effective. We will try this instead now. Or do they listen to you? Do they listen to the residents? What do you guys want out of this situation? How would you guys go about it? So really just an approach to dealing with issues. I would focus on those areas.
Totally agree with all those questions that you told us, and I definitely recommend whoever watching this video, especially medical students, who wrote down the question and asked the residency program. So this is probably a more pessimistic view from me, especially during the time of COVID right now. But as far as you know, what is the most common reason for people failing to match into PMNR?
So I'll be honest, I matched into PMNR in 2018. It is now, the next cycle is going to be 2021. And when I was a fourth year medical student, we were at a conference in Denver, the AOCPMR conference, and they had a panel discussion, and there were residents, chief residents, fellows giving out the same exact information. And to be completely honest, the advice that was being given at that time by some of the more senior residents, I did not feel was good advice from some people. And it was well-meaning and educated, but maybe it would have been better the year before or 2 years before. PMNR is evolving and growing at such a rapid pace that I don't think I'm the best person to answer why someone wouldn't match, because it's changing rapidly. I mean, 1 year to the next, numbers are changing, all different things. I still can give my guess and my assessment, but I just wanted to give that sort of honest disclaimer. That being the case, because the numbers are going up, so of course, sort of like another field, things get more competitive. And so, again, I have not sat on an admissions committee, but it's I don't know if the reason is grades or scores. I don't know that it's that as much. What I do know is that, at least in my time, and it's probably the same, is, did you show a genuine and sincere energy and interest in PMNR? And I said energy before interest, because I think programs are looking for energy. So I once heard, and this is not to say that this is the case or unanimous or across the board at all, but I once heard from a program chair, not at the University of Minnesota, this was elsewhere, that when they receive a CV that had any ortho evidence on it at all, they tear it up, because they just assume that this is just another person that didn't get into ortho that wants to go into PMNR. So I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying somebody that wanted to go into ortho shouldn't pursue PMNR, that you can't pursue PMNR. But I would just say in general, that's probably what it is. It's did you show enough of an interest that we believe that this is what you want for your, to that end, it's tricky, and I hope sort of what I'm trying to accomplish will help that, is there are people that just don't find out about PMNR very early on, or they don't have opportunities. I went to a medical school where we had a mandatory PMNR rotation. That was, I don't think there were many that were doing that at all. One thing that I'm doing now through the YouTube channel is starting to make pre-med PMNR content and expand PMNR at the undergraduate level. We can have our efforts to do outreach to first, second, third year, fourth year students, but I think it's time to get people informed about it at an earlier age. So that's how I would answer the question. But I think it's probably different for everyone.
Yeah, totally understandable. Yeah, and totally agree with, like, you need to energy and interest in the PMNR, so to just show the program that you're really willing to be in the field, not because of some backup or something like that. Definitely, I totally agree with you on that. And so I know, and there you also mentioned that you're gonna extend it to the pre-med as well, and that's very good idea because some undergraduate people ask me what I want to be like for like a specialty wise, and
Mhm.
I told them a PMR, but they didn't know much about it, and I'm very glad that you're gonna make more effort in that explaining.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think that, sort of to sum up, I uh, I think that unless you have a specific passion, such as delivering children, delivering babies,
Mm-hmm.
or doing interventional cardiology procedures, that PM&R obviously is not going to do that for you. I think that if everybody really understood and knew enough about PM&R and had enough exposure to PM&R early on, I think that the entire medical school class would want to go into PM&R.
Yeah.
And people will tell you, friends of mine who, they didn't really know or understand it so much, and now that we're a few years down the line in residency and they understand different things, the amount of people that wish they went into PM&R is really astounding.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that educating people earlier on will be important for that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Reisman. I had a lot of fun doing this podcast.
Oh, likewise.
Sorry for some little bit technical difficulty along the way, but I really had fun with this. And I know that you're going to have a live Q&A right after this podcast as well. So I'm not going to use all of your time and let you prepare for that as well. But is there anything that we have not explored that you would like to explore or discuss that haven't brought up yet?
I think that I think we did a good job. We talked about a lot of things. There's certainly, we could talk about PM&R all day. I have a lot of ideas about it that I think are fun to talk about. But if there's anything that anybody ever wants to know or has any questions, one thing that as of now I try to do, with all of the different videos and things that I make and questions. I'm by no means a celebrity, so I don't have like this problem of fan mail coming in, but I try to answer any question, with appropriate time, and energy towards the person who's asking that question. So if anyone has any questions about anything that we talked about or any other things, PM&R related, residency related, I think the process of choosing what field and what residency program you want to go into is super important. And I think there's so much misinformation. I think there's a lot of things that people think are important to look at. And, that I think would be an entirely different podcast, about just like what to watch out for, things like that. Of course, being sensitive to not say anything inappropriate about any particular program. But if anyone has any questions, please, reach out to me and I'll do my best to try to answer or point you to someone else who can answer.
And where can the audience get in contact with you in terms to Instagram or to any means?
I actually think that Instagram and Twitter are a better way of communicating than email or text or phone or anything. I think that they're just intuitive. So the easy thing is I have the same exact handle on both. So it's Dr. John Reisman, DrJonReisman. So Twitter, Instagram, either one, both of those accounts receive direct messages. So I'll be more than happy to connect with anyone in those ways.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Reisman, for being here with us today for the podcast. And we learned a lot from you about the PM&R field, as well as your project, as well as your advice on the COVID-19 situation right now for the medical students. And we are very thankful for your insight. And I hope that we can do another podcast again to talk about more things in the futures.
Oh, right? It'll be my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.